Hello everyone. In previous videos, we discussed regarding the ear and nose completely. So today in this video, we are going to discuss regarding the anatomy of pharynx and larynx. So let's see where it starts. It extends from the base of skull, up to C6 vertebra. Just imagine this is the base of skull and here comes the C1 vertebra, C2 and finally the pharynx ends in C3 level. So here it is almost 10 centimeter in length. So here in case of pharynx we have three different types of pharynx. One is nasopharynx and another one is second one is oropharynx and the another last one is hypopharynx. So nasopharynx, the pharynx which is related to the nasal area, oropharynx related to oral cavity and the one which is deeper than the next to the next knot, it is lower than the oropharynx is hypopharynx. Okay. So here regarding the nasopharynx and its extension, this is important. So here as I had told, the pharynx extends from the skull. So it extends from the base of skull to the palatal sphincter and passavant ridge which is located in the C2 level. Okay. So first nasopharynx extends from the skull to the palatal sphincter and passavant ridge. So it is extending up to C2 level. Then comes oropharynx. Level of palatal sphincter to the level of tip of epiglottis. So we know up to palatal sphincter it is nasopharynx and now it is extending from palatal sphincter to the epiglottis. So here the vertebral level is C4. Okay. Then hypopharynx it extends up to the lower border of cricoid cartilage which is at the level of C6. Okay. I am just repeating. We already know that the pharynx extends from skull to the C6 vertebra. So here there are three types of pharynx. One is nasopharynx, another one is oropharynx and another one is hypopharynx. Nasopharynx it extends from the skull, base of the skull to the palatal sphincter and passavant ridge and the vertebral level is C2. Oropharynx it extends from the palatal sphincter to the level of the epiglottis, that is C4. Then from hypopharynx it extends up to the lower border of cricoid cartilage and here the vertebral level is C6. So C2, C4 and C6 and total length is 10 centimeter. So this is all regarding it. Next regarding the muscles of pharynx. So here regarding the extrinsic muscle, there are three different muscles which are of circular in nature. Superior, inferior and middle constrictor. You can see as superior, middle and inferior constrictor which were circular in nature. And the intrinsic muscles were stylopharyngeus, salpingopharyngeus and palatopharyngeus. These are of longitudinal in nature. 1 minute. Yes. So here you can remember as S, S, P. So stylopharyngeus, salpingopharyngeus and palatopharyngeus which is of longitudinal. So extrinsic muscles are of circular in nature and intrinsic muscles are of longitudinal in nature. Okay. Try to remember it. Next regarding the important condition related to pharynx, that is Killian's dehiscence. So here it is none other than a potential gap between thyropharyngeus and cricopharyngeus. You can remember it as cry and thigh like that, so that you can remember the muscle easily. So Killian's dehiscence is nothing but the gap between cry and thigh. Cry is cricopharyngeus and thigh is thyropharyngeus. It is also called as gateway of tears. So as I had already mentioned, whenever there is a gap, there is a possibility of protrusion out of it. So here what happens? There will be herniation of mucosa through this potential space. Already told there will be a gap. So what happens? There will be herniation of mucosa through that potential gap leading to because of the muscular weakness, and that leads to the production of pharyngeal diverticulum or pharyngeal pouch. So here the main important thing you have to remember is thyropharyngeus and cricopharyngeus. And another one important thing I would like to share with you, this is a false diverticulum. Okay. So this is a false diverticulum because it does not involve all the layers of pharynx. It involves only the mucosa of pharynx. So it is also called as false diverticulum. These 2 points are important to remember. Next. So now comes Waldeyer ring. You might be knowing this name. So it is none other than the aggregation of lymphoid tissues between the upper respiratory tract and upper digestive tract. And here this Waldeyer ring is formed by nasopharyngeal tonsil, which is also called as adenoid, then tubal tonsil, then fossal tonsil, which is also called as palatine tonsil, and finally lingual tonsil. So this Waldeyer ring is made up of 4 different types of tonsils. So forming a ring-like structure. Okay. So it is an aggregated collection of lymphoid tissues. Next. So now comes palatine tonsil. So let's see where this palatine tonsil exists. So it exists between the interval between the anterior and posterior pillar. So once you open mouth, you can see the anterior pillar easily, and then you can see the light focusing on the posterior pillar. So in between them, we can see the palatine tonsils. Then regarding the artery branch is tonsillar branch of facial artery. Then the vein is paratonsillar vein, which ends in the common facial vein. And then comes the lymphatic drainage, which is jugulodigastric group of upper cervical lymph nodes. Next. Now we are moving towards the larynx. So we completed the pharynx now. So larynx here, it extends from C3 to lower border of C6. Okay. So what happens, as I had mentioned, just have a cross structure just for observation. Here comes the C1 vertebra. So what happens here, from C1, from the base of skull up to C6 is pharynx, and here in case of larynx, it extends from keep it as C2, then C3. So here what happens, larynx starts from here, from the C3, and it ends in the lower border of C6 up to here. All of this area from C3 to C6 is larynx, and from there it extends as trachea and bifurcation of trachea and lungs, you know. And here what happens, pharynx, it continues down as esophagus from the C6 vertebra. So here it is esophagus, and here it is trachea. So don't confuse with the pharynx and larynx. Pharynx extends from the base of skull. You know, when it is related to nose, it is nasopharynx, oral cavity, oropharynx. And this hypopharynx and larynx are related closely. And then it extends as esophagus. Here what happens? Here larynx starts from C3 and it extends up to C6, and from the C6 it continues as trachea. Okay. Now cartilages of larynx are also more important. Regarding the paired cartilage, that is arytenoid, carniculate and cuneiform. And regarding the unpaired cartilage also, thyroid, cricoid and epiglottic. Thyroid, cricoid and epiglottic. So some additional points regarding the cricoid cartilage. So this cricoid cartilage is of ring shape. So we all know that the pharynx extends from the base of skull to C6, and below the C6 there exists the cricoid cartilage, which is a ring of hyaline cartilage located on the inferior aspect of the larynx. Only complete ring of cartilage. So if we are checking the trachea, this is the only cartilage which is of complete ring. But in case of trachea, we can see this incomplete ring of cartilage. And this cartilage is of signet ring shaped. Signet ring shaped. So below the C6, we can find this cricoid. Below the level of C6, we can find this cricoid cartilage. So it's a ring of hyaline cartilage, and it is of signet ring shape, and it is of a only complete ring of cartilage. And here comes few MCQ points related to these cartilages and larynx. First, regarding thyroid cartilage, this is the largest of the laryngeal cartilages. Then comes thyroid membrane. This thyroid membrane is pierced by superior laryngeal vessels and internal laryngeal nerve. Okay, internal laryngeal nerve. Then comes two synovial joints related to this. One is cricoarytenoid and another one is cricothyroid. So there are two synovial joints, or you can remember cricoarytenoid and cricothyroid are of synovial joint type. Then comes the narrowest part of larynx in adults. So be clear whether the question is adult or children. If it is adult, then it is rima glottidis, and if it is children, it is subglottic region. Then comes prelaryngeal lymph nodes. It is a region of thyroid isthmus, which is also called as delphic nodes. So prelaryngeal lymph nodes called as delphic nodes, and pre-epiglottic space is also called as space of Boyer. That is space of Boyer. So I am repeating. The largest cartilage of laryngeal cartilage is thyroid cartilage, and thyroid membrane is pierced by superior laryngeal vessel and internal laryngeal nerve, and the synovial joints were cricoarytenoid and cricothyroid. Then comes rima glottidis, which is the narrowest part of the larynx in adults, and subglottic region in case of children, and comes pre-laryngeal lymph node region of thyroid isthmus, which is also called as delphic nodes, and pre-epiglottic space were called as space of Boyer. So these are all the few MCQ points related to larynx. Then comes muscles of larynx. So first comes cricothyroid. So the MCQ points were, this is the only intrinsic muscle lying on the external aspect of the larynx, and it is also called as tensor of larynx, and it is supplied by external laryngeal nerve, which is a branch of superior laryngeal nerve. Okay. So cricothyroid, it is an intrinsic muscle lying on the external aspect. It is a tensor of larynx, and it is supplied by external laryngeal nerve, branch of superior laryngeal nerve. Then comes posterior cricoid muscle, which is also called as abductor of vocal cord. If it is abducting, then it means it opens the glottis. And then lateral cricoarytenoid and transverse arytenoid were adductor of vocal cords. So this thyroarytenoids, the upper part is called as thyroepiglotticus and lower part is called as vocalis. So here all the muscles of pair except this transverse arytenoids. Okay. So I am repeating. Posterior cricoarytenoid is abductor of vocal cord. Lateral and transverse arytenoids are adductor of vocal cord. Thyroarytenoids are divided into two parts. One is thyroepiglotticus and lower part is vocalis. And all are paired except transverse arytenoid. So next. And this is regarding the nerve. So here we all know there is one common exception, that all the muscles are supplied by recurrent laryngeal nerve except cricothyroid, which is supplied by superior laryngeal nerve. This is more and more important. Okay, you can remember both the nerves. The cricothyroid is supplied by external laryngeal nerve, which is a branch of superior laryngeal nerve. Then comes sensory supply. So in case of mucous membrane, the supply is by the internal laryngeal nerve, and RLN, that is recurrent laryngeal nerve, it gives below the level of vocal cord. So remember, in case of motor supply, Recurrent laryngeal nerve supplies everyone except the cricothyroid, which is supplied by external laryngeal nerve, which is a branch of superior laryngeal nerve. Then sensory supply, internal laryngeal nerve, mucous membrane, and recurrent laryngeal nerve below the level of vocal cords. So at last, one MCQ related to the anatomical point. What is galen anastomosis? So it is none other than the connection between recurrent laryngeal nerve and superior laryngeal nerve. Then human communicating nerve, which is none other than the anastomosis between SLN and RLN again. Okay. So here the main thing you have to remember is, in case of galen anastomosis, the SLN is of internal branch, and in case of human communicating nerve, the SLN is of external branch. So kindly don't confuse these things. So try to remember and recall. Thank you so much.